Ladies and gentlemen, or as I should say, honourable viewers, this is a real talk on the future of this channel, which sounds like quite a dramatic title, but it really isn't all that dramatic at all. Unlike the last real talk, I'm not going to appear on camera this time for two reasons. One, I look like arse right now, believe me, you do not want to see how I look right now. And number two, I think that most people would rather see the random assortment of gameplay captures that I have left over on my hard drive rather than my ugly mug for the next 20 minutes or however the hell long this is going to be. I think that is much more visually appealing, but I don't know. Who knows, maybe there is some people out there who would, in which case I think there's something wrong with you. So what is this all about? Ultimately, it's about that I don't really like to waste people's time. Unless we're talking about Stone Talon Mountains, then I very much like to waste people's time. But apart from that, I really don't like to waste people's time. And if you're watching this, then you're probably one of the handful of people who actually subscribe to this channel. And that means that you probably want to carry on seeing the productions of which you subscribed for in the first place. And as I don't like to waste people's time, I'd much rather make an announcement here and now when I plan to change the channel's direction so that your sub box doesn't just get spammed with productions that you aren't interested in and you slowly unsubscribe. Anyway, I'd rather be outright with people. And I say this because I'm going to make some big changes to this channel, but before I go into what those changes are, I feel like I kind of have to give you somewhat of a history lesson of this channel so that you can better understand why I came to the conclusion that these changes would be necessary. So I've been on YouTube for a very, very long time. I started using the website back in 2007. I've seen it through its highs, its mids, and its current lows. And I've been editing videos for quite some time as well, over a decade in fact, which is why I think I'm, not to toot my own horn, but I think I'm pretty good at it. And so I started this channel in, I believe, December 2019, because I wanted to put my editing skills to use and start something quite serious. I believed that I could make things that would entertain people, sometimes educate people, sometimes a mix of the two. Truth be told, what really inspired me to start this channel was that I was browsing gaming videos on YouTube and I couldn't help but look at them and think, gosh, I could do so much better of a job than these people. Not to name any names, but I could see people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, sometimes even millions, and I would just think like, gosh, this is half-assed, or, you know, you're not talking about this correctly, or your opinions are wrong. And I just thought that I could do a better job. And so I started this channel and numerous different series, many of which are still going on today. Old But Gold, where I take a look back at games that are over a decade old that no one really talks about today, but are still well worth playing. Gaming's Biggest Problems, where I talk about the biggest problems in the gaming industry. It's quite a self-explanatory title. And a bunch of World of Warcraft related series like Warfall, where I go through each expansion / era of the game and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly within it, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different series that this channel has had. And when I started the channel, I was actually quite modest. Most people, when they get into YouTube, they are quite, how would you put it? They over-exaggerate the level of estimated success that they're going to have, because they're comparing themselves to the people that they watch, right? So they see someone with a few 100,000 subscribers and they go, oh, well, I could do that. And they start a channel up, make some videos, and then it turns out that after a month they're on 5 subscribers and then they're crying that, you know, they weren't treated right or something like that. I was actually much more modest going into it. I had an estimate, and, you know, you're going to laugh at this, you know, in hindsight. I had an estimate when I started this channel. December 2019, I said, in a year's time, so by December 2020, I think I will aim for about 10,000 subscribers. It is currently August 2021, and last time I checked, I'm on about 190. No, that's not 190,000. That's 190. Needless to say, I was a little bit off the mark, and keep in mind, as I said, that was my modest estimate. So, how on earth is it that I came up with such a disastrous miscalculation? Well, maths was never my strong point, but the reason why I thought I would have around 10,000 after a year is because I thought that the stuff that I would make, my productions would be of such a high quality and quite unique and would be good enough to deserve that audience. And so therefore the only logical conclusion that you can come to in hindsight now, a year and a half later, and I'm not even, what am I, 50 times off the mark? I have 50 times less than I thought I would be a year ago. The only conclusion that you can come to is that no, actually, the things that I make are not worthwhile. They aren't worth that level of audience. That is the only logical conclusion that you can come to. However, I just refuse to accept that. And I understand that in the Western world today, if you compliment your own work, or as we say in Britain, toot your own horn, it's often seen as being big-headed, egotistical. It's not a very positive trait to have. However, I'm not saying this because I'm delusional, and I'm not saying this because I want to pat myself on the back, but I genuinely believe that the productions that are produced and uploaded to this channel deserve far, far more recognition than YouTube provides them. And it seems most people watching this tend to agree, because the number one comment that I get on this channel is people who often say that they can't believe how underrated the channel is, and that it's kind of like it's almost like an old but gold game on YouTube in a way. It's kind of like a little bit of a hidden gem. The level of production value on this channel, barring the green screen and camera quality, of course, is more than deserving of, more than 190 subscribers. Essentially, at this point, I ask myself, well, okay, why is it that this channel has been rewarded so poorly by YouTube? You as the viewer, when you see a video or play a game, let's say, you're seeing the final result of all the work that goes into it. But what you don't see is the amount of time that goes into actually making it. So for example, a few days ago I made a video I was referring to earlier about Stone Talon Mountains. It was a little bit of a WoW creepypasta. I thought it was a bit cool. It received quite a good reception. And I probably spent on that video quite a good few hours. I know it was 11 pages of manuscript. So it was 11 pages of the script itself. That probably took about 4 hours. And then I probably took another 4 hours getting all the little loose material for it. And then I probably spent about, let's say about 2 hours getting the in-game recording, shall we say, give or take. And then I probably spent about 20 hours editing it. Oh yeah, and another hour, rendering and uploading it and that kind of thing. So I would say over about 30 hours in total went into that production. And if you look at it today, it got about 200 views. I don't think I need to say that it doesn't really make much sense on my part to put in 20, 30, and sometimes even 50 hours into making a production only for it to get rewarded with about, on average, about 200 views. That just doesn't really make any sense. It makes sense when you're starting off, but after a year and a half, you should start to see some significant growth by then, and this channel just hasn't seen that. When people find my stuff, it is received in an overwhelmingly positive fashion. Probably about 95% positive, 5% negative, give or take. Which basically means when people find my stuff, they like it. The problem is not many do find it in the first place. That's the problem. So I said, well, why is it not being promoted? And I came to 3 conclusions. And these are the 3 changes that will essentially be coming to this channel. 2 of these problems I blame on YouTube, and 1 of these problems I blame on myself. So let's start off with the problems I blame on YouTube. The first is swearing. Swearing is a bit of an oddity, because depending on where you are, it's either considered to be grossly offensive or commonplace speech. So for example, I'm from the north of England, and where I'm from, people swear in borderline every sentence. People do it in a friendly way, what's known as banter. Where I'm from, you can go up to your best friend, call him the rudest words possible, and he'll laugh at you and probably do the same in return. Swearing here is used as a method of, as bizarre as it may sound to some people, friendship, over-exaggeration, and comedy. It's very common here. And I know it's the case in Australia and New Zealand and other parts of the Anglosphere as well, except most notably the United States, where swearing is actually considered to be quite offensive, quite rude, and quite trashy even. Let's take what the Americans foolishly refer to as the C word. That word in the UK is used very, very commonly. It's not really an offensive word, it's just kind of, I don't want to say it's a part of everyday speech. It's not like you'd go to your doctor and they start swearing at you or something like that, right? But in an informal environment, it really isn't that big of a deal if it's used. Whereas I know that in the United States, that word is probably one of the worst things you can call someone. And so it's quite unusual really, because I swear quite casually in a lot of my productions. To me it's not that much of a big deal. However, as YouTube is an American company, specifically Californian, where they are, swearing is identified on a much more different basis. It's less of a cultural normality, and it's more of a pretty much a universal negative. And as a result, when you swear in a video on YouTube, it gets much, much, much less likely to be promoted, because they consider it to be obscene or gross or offensive or whatever. This is just one of the many examples of YouTube and many other American companies, specifically Californian companies, being completely and utterly ignorant of the world outside of the United States. What is considered grossly offensive to you is considered normality to me, and to the vast majority of I imagine, British viewers and even Australian viewers, etc. But because I do swear in a lot of my productions, I believe that this hinders its promotion. Which brings me on to problem number 2, which is that ever since 2016, YouTube has become quite a sanitized platform, and I know I'm not the only one who's noticed this. Without going too much into it, what happened in 2016 is that the US election did not go the way that many of the American elites wanted it to go. You know, they thought it was in the bag, it didn't go the way they wanted, and this was blamed heavily on the internet and social media and websites like YouTube at large. As a result, after that, the so-called adpocalypse occurred, whereby a lot of advertisers, and remember, advertisers are the lifeblood of YouTube. YouTube doesn't really pay its creators directly. The advertisers pay YouTube, and the YouTubers then pay the creators with the advertisers' money. They're middlemen, essentially. But without them, the platform dies. A lot of these advertisers pulled out after that and said that YouTube really needs to get more strict on the sort of stuff that it allows to be monetized on the platform, and YouTube essentially bent over, mostly because to them they felt like they didn't really have a choice. And as a result, a lot of channels were closed, a lot of channels were demonetized. It became a lot more strict on who they would promote. And as a result, and swearing falls into that category, by the way, but as a result, what you've noticed is that a lot of YouTube today, you don't really see a lot of the edgy stuff or even remotely mature stuff at all anymore. It's all quite corporate, quite sanitized, quite family friendly. You know, I challenge you to go to the front page and find anything that's even remotely considered 10 o'clock material, and you won't. It's all Fortnite dances and, you know exactly what I'm talking about here, slime tutorials. I have nothing wrong with these things being on YouTube. However, what it means is that if you produce anything that's designed for even a remotely mature audience, it basically will struggle to get found. And so if you swear, or if you are a little bit on the edge, then YouTube will not promote you. What YouTube does is quite interesting, actually. YouTube trusts its large creators, because if you're a large creator, that means that you've already essentially proven yourself. You have a large audience. If you have hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers, it won't really give you that much trouble, because you've proven that you're pretty much safe to have on the platform. And to keep the advertisers happy, YouTube kind of promotes these already established creators all over the place because they're safe. You know, it's not a gamble. There's a lot of YouTube channels with like 10 million subscribers or whatever. You know that they're not going to really be producing any edgy stuff or anything like that, right? They're safe. And so you can promote them, put ads on them, and it's all family friendly. But with a small channel who is unproven, you don't really know what kind of person they are. You don't really know if they're going to be a little bit on the edge. And so YouTube is much less likely to promote smaller channels because it's a gamble. You know, why would YouTube promote a channel that has 100 subscribers when it can promote a channel that has 10 million? You know, the 10 million channel has already proven that people like it, it already has an established audience, it's already advertiser friendly. Why would YouTube take a risk and in that recommendation slot put a smaller channel there? It doesn't really make any sense. And so as a result, it's become almost nigh on impossible to grow a channel on YouTube without some sort of third-party advertisement, some sort of shout-out, some sort of assistance. You know, if all you do is follow what YouTube advises, which is upload high-quality productions and trust the algorithm will put it in front of people who want to watch it, well, good luck with that, because it won't. It will always side with the already established channels before yours, because yours is considered to be a gamble. So as a small creator, you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, YouTube won't promote your videos because it doesn't have a lot of views, but the reason why it doesn't have a lot of views is because YouTube won't promote it. So, you kind of can't grow in a way, you're kind of stuck. And in the past, this really wasn't that much of an issue. I remember back in 2007, and you would always see on the front page videos with only a few thousand, even a few hundred views. It was very, very easy to grow a channel back then. Now granted, the website has become pretty much oversaturated with every kind of production that you can imagine. So of course, naturally, it's going to be more difficult to grow. But YouTube doesn't really do much to remedy this at all. They stick to their large creators like glue, and they basically give the middle finger to everyone else. And as a result, what you'll notice is that YouTube, for the last few years, and unless they dramatically change course for the next few years, is going to have a significant problem on their hands. Because YouTube needs new blood. Any website needs new creators. Because what happens is the already established creators, they either burn out, they get bored, they quit. And without a constant flow of new, interesting, and high-quality creators, YouTube is just going to get stale. It's almost like a garden. It's all fine if you're growing fruit and vegetables or whatever once, but if you don't keep watering them, they're going to die out. And YouTube is essentially going to be, in a few years, this garden of a bunch of washed-up, yet highly successful creators, but there's no real excitement, edge, or new blood at all. Now, that's not to say that it's literally impossible to grow a channel. However, it is extremely, extremely difficult, at least compared to how it used to be. Gathering an audience on YouTube is essentially a mix of effort multiplied by luck. So the more effort you put in, the higher the chance is. However, if you don't have that multiplication of luck to help you out, then you're basically going to get nowhere. And I feel like my channel is one of those channels where there's clearly a lot of effort that's been put into it. You've got to give me some credit here. I think that be hard pressed to say that I don't put much effort into it. However, I don't really have that luck aspect to sort of boost me forward, and as a result, the channel essentially remains stagnant no matter what I do. So YouTube really needs to start finding a way to get smaller creators to have a better audience if their productions are actually worthwhile. But alas, I could come up with a way to do that in about 5 minutes, but again, what's the point? So that's the two problems that I blame on YouTube. The last one I blame on myself, and this one is that if you were to try to summarize what this channel is, it's very difficult to do so, because I think that the stuff that I make is far, far too varied. You see, with most gaming channels, they only typically tend to do one thing. So some do reviews, some do retrospectives, some do machinimas, some do creepypastas, some do sort of educational stuff like that. Mine is pretty much all of those things in one. You never really know what you're going to get next. If I look at what I've uploaded recently, we've got 2 machinimas in a row, a creepypasta, then a bunch of reviews, a bunch of suggestions, retrospectives. It is all over the place. I have a friend of mine who has a highly successful channel, around over 200,000 subscribers. He doesn't really upload anything on it anymore. And I noticed with his channel that he basically did one thing. He took one thing and did it very, very, very well. It's almost repackaging the same thing over and over and over again. And I've been told that the problem with my channel, in a way, is that YouTube just can't figure out what the bloody hell it is, right? If you go from making creepypastas and then machinimas the next day, YouTube kind of doesn't know who to recommend this to. It can't quite figure out what is this channel. It's clearly something to do with games, but what exactly, right? And I feel like I need to consolidate. I need to stick at what it is that I think that I excel at the most. And so this is where the changes are coming into place. So some series have been put on hiatus, and some of them are going to pretty much be focused on exclusively from now on. This is my sort of plan. I'm going to try to make one kind of production and do it very, very well. The idea that I have for this channel is that I want it to be a channel whereby I've noticed that a lot of people lately, they struggle with picking games to play. There's so many games out there, but they don't really know what exactly to play at any given time. It's quite an overwhelming time right now where there's literally hundreds, thousands of games, but what exactly is worth putting your money into? And I kind of want to transform this channel into being a channel whereby whenever someone's bored, whenever they have that sort of urge, that sort of itch to play a game, they can just come here and I will show them, game after game after game in a high quality and professional manner, and show them, hey, maybe you might be interested in this, maybe you might be interested in that. And that's essentially what I'm going to transform this channel into. I'm going to start a new series called Should You Play? And I'm pretty sure the name of the series is quite self-explanatory. It's a new kind of, I don't really want to call it a review, it's kind of a review, whereby I take a game, I play it, usually from start to finish, and I give my thoughts on it, show it to you, and see if you'd be interested in trying it out. I've already actually uploaded the first proper episode of this series, and that'll be live on Wednesday. If you're watching this in the future, that's irrelevant. It's probably up now as well as many others, but yeah, and that's essentially what I want this channel to become. That is what I want people to think of when they think of this channel. It's, oh, that's the place where I go whenever I want to find a new cool game that I might be interested in. Whereas right now people kind of think of the channel and go, I have no idea what the bloody hell's going on there. It's kind of like a madman's lunatic asylum right now, but that's kind of what I want to transform it into. But that means that if I want to focus on that, then some things need to go to the chopping block. And I've decided that essentially the things that need to go into the chopping block is essentially everything World of Warcraft related. So right now I have a lot of WoW series. So some that come to mind, Warfall, as I said, which goes through every kind of expansion. The last Warfall I made was the Wrath of the Lich King Warfall. It was by far the longest and most expensive production I made. I spent about 2 weeks making it. It was about an hour and 20 minutes long. I still think to this day it is by far the best video on Wrath of the Lich King on this entire platform. Yes, I might be tooting my own horn there, but I'm only saying that because I genuinely believe it. And it's sitting right now at about 200 views. Yeah, needless to say, I will not be doing that again. There's no real point making something. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy making these things, but there's no point making something of such a high amount of effort if no one is really around to appreciate it. And I don't really feel an overwhelming desire to make, say, an episode on Cataclysm or WoD or MoP or whatever, which I'm more than willing to do if no one would watch it. What's the point? Another series I have is WoW 2, which is again me giving my thoughts, like my proposals. If I was the head of WoW's development, what would I do? Again, I kind of feel like I enjoy these nice little bite-sized videos, but again, I kind of feel like what's the point? Because I'm not going to work at Blizzard. Blizzard don't listen to anyone but themselves, and they don't even do that right. So I kind of feel like it's beating a dead horse at this point. Again, they don't really get many views at all. What's the point? And lastly, I think Players vs. Perverts, again, where I hunt down ERPers. I can't find anything like that on this platform, but again, it's pretty much just one of those hidden gem series that if you find it, you'll enjoy it, but finding it's the hard part. So all of these series have a high amount of effort put into them, but they don't really get the audience retention that I want. And frankly, World of Warcraft and Blizzard in general pretty much just disgust me these days. And both the company and the community at large, if I'm being completely frank with you. It just depresses me to make videos about the game. I kind of just want to put it in the past and forget that it ever existed, frankly. So they're pretty much going on hiatus. I don't want to never say never, but that's kind of the plan for now. I kind of want to shelve them. And I just want to put all the focus on the sort of old but gold, Should You Play, and a bunch of other general gaming industry at large topics. And so the ultimate message that I have here is that if you came here purely for World of Warcraft stuff, then it's probably wise for you to unsubscribe. And I don't mind if you unsubscribe. I appreciate you being here for the time that you've been. I hope you enjoyed the stuff that I made that you saw. However, I don't want you to say subscribe to a channel and have your sub box filled with videos that you're not really interested in. That just seems redundant. That doesn't help me, it doesn't help you. So if that's what you're here for, then I would say the wisest thing to do is unsubscribe. If, however, you are here to perhaps broaden your gaming palette, to find some games that you may not have played before, to see these sort of some of the hidden gems, some of the forgotten indies, some of the old ancient games that no one really talks of that might have gone under your radar at the time but are well worth playing, then absolutely I would say stick around, because I'm gonna try and have a lot of stuff like that. Now, do I think that this will actually grow the channel? Well, I would say not really. I'd say there's probably a 99% chance it won't. I don't really have much faith in YouTube at all anymore. But considering I've come this far and made this much, I thought, why not? I'll try this nice little reformation, so no swearing, and yeah, try to consolidate. That's the plan. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm going to give it until, I would say, probably around the end of the year, see how it goes. And if it grows, then fantastic, I can carry on. If not, then, well, I'm pretty much going to have to pull the plug on the channel, because I don't really see the point. As much as I enjoy making things, I don't really see the point in putting so much effort into things if they're not going to be seen. And apologies if that upsets the 5 subscribers that I have, but surely you must see it from my perspective. If you spend 50 hours or whatever making something and then only about 5 people see it, after a year and a half, it does kind of get on your nerves a bit. Even if you do enjoy the process and you're proud of the creation you've made, it's just not feasible to put that much time into something that just doesn't really give you much in return. So to wrap it up, I know that some people will say, well, you say that you've put a lot of effort in, but you really haven't, because you haven't, for example, made videos with clickbait titles, or tried to deceive people, or put your face on the thumbnails with a little soy face looking like you're about to spontaneously combust. Like, you haven't done everything that you possibly could to make your channel grow. And what I say is I apologize, but I am unwilling to clickbait or deceive people or make myself look like a fool in order to gain an audience. If that is what is required to gain an audience in YouTube in 2021, then I would rather not at all. I pride myself on quality, honesty, integrity, and being legit. And I'm not just going to do what everyone else is doing or trying to deceive people in some ways just to get attention. I just don't work that way. I would rather have an honest but dead channel than a deceptive but thriving channel. And maybe that's not wise. Maybe that some people might dismiss that as stupid or naive or whatever, but I apologize, but I just do not work that way. I can promise you one thing: you will never see my face on a thumbnail with my mouth wide open, with my eyes bulging, with red arrows everywhere, with an all caps title, doing Fortnite dances or something like that. No, it's the quality of the production that's important to me personally. But if that production can't find the audience that it deserves, then there's no point making the production in the first place. And that's fundamentally what it comes down to. A lot of people start YouTube for the wrong reasons. They start it because they want fame or wealth or whatever. Of course, those things are nice, but I want to make things that are good and entertain people or make people laugh. And people see them. And I've done half of that. I've kind of done my half of the bargain. But if YouTube won't reward that by actually showing it to people who want to see it, then there's kind of no point me investing in a platform that doesn't really invest back into me, if that makes sense. But anyway, I feel like I've waffled on for quite some time. So they are the changes. TLDR, WoW stuff is on hiatus. The channel's going to change significantly into becoming more general gaming. We'll see how that works until the end of the year. If it works, I'll carry on. If it doesn't, I'll pull the plug and move on to something else. But either way, I just thought I'd let you know, because I don't want people to be like, where's the WoW stuff? Or, what is this? What's going on here? But anyway, there you are. So, if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening, and yeah, I will see you next time.